a command to start from your end. That means I'm ready once the
Yes,
recording is
sir.
started.
Just for a moment, let me try to
You
share the
you
PPT
you can
once.
you can check.
Yes. Sir, is the screen visible?
Yes, properly.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Then I think we can start the session.
Actually, we are ready. You can take the permission from ma'am and start.
Ma'am, can we start the session?
Yes, yes, you can start.
Okay. Good evening, audience. Welcome to another enlightening session organized by Just Corpus. I'm your host, Akshar Aditya, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you. Before we begin, let me introduce you to our esteemed guest speaker, Ms. Mohini Taneja, ma'am. Ma'am is an assistant professor in School of Law at Lingaya's Vidyapeeth, Faridabad. She has completed her LL.B from Maharishi Dayanand University, Rohtak. Thereafter, she completed her master's in criminal law from Lingaya's Vidyapeeth. Currently, she is pursuing her Ph.D. She represents herself as a student of both law and philosophy. She is a reader and wants to remain a reader for the rest of her life. The immense pleasure of teaching and learning together is bliss for her. She is a dedicated and dynamic legal professional with a unique blend of litigation experience and academic expertise, committed to making meaningful contribution to the legal field. To our esteemed guests, welcome back to our panel. We are honored to have you here tonight. Now, before we dive into our topic, let me give our viewers a brief overview of the organizer behind tonight's session. Just Corpus is a body of legal professionals who have brought various aspects and chains of law under a single umbrella. Just Corpus, an edtech platform established in 2020, has a wide reach of 600K clicks per month on average basis on its website. The inspiration was derived from the ever-growing need for law students. Just Corpus has also incorporated interdisciplinary journals as its subsidiaries, named the Just Corpus Law Journal and International Journal of Law, Research, Education, and Social Sciences. Now, on to the main event. This evening, our esteemed guest, will be shedding light on the topic of unheard voices, understanding prostitution and marginalization. Ma'am, the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Akshay, once again for inviting me here. So, respected team members, dear students, and all my friends, thank you for inviting me again, Just Corpus, and a warm good evening to all of you. So, it is both an honor and responsibility to be here today to speak on a subject that is often whispered about, often judged, but rarely understood. Unheard voices, understanding prostitution and marginalization in India. In India, as a diverse and dynamic as ours, the paradox of silence surrounding workers is both telling and tragic. So, despite being part of one of the oldest informal sectors in human history, sex workers in India remain socially invisible, legally ambiguous, and economically exploited. So, they are part of our cities, our streets, and yet they live in the shadows that with the denied dignity, denied justice, and denied voice. So together we gather here to sensationalize this issue, but to not to sensitize this issue, but to humanize it. Behind every statistics is a woman, a person often pushed into prostitution not by choice, but by the causes of poverty due to the trafficking issues, the abuse issues, or the caste operations for systematic inequality. They are mothers, they are daughters, they are survivors, and resilient and real. So, yet society continues to look away, criminalizing their livelihood, stigmatizing their identity, marginalizing their very existence. Our laws offer confusion more than protection. So, our society offers judgment more than compassion. And our policies, sadly, offer too little and too late. But here is the truth that we must reckon that no one's dignity should be negotiable, right? And no one should be unheard. So the goal for the today's lecture, it's not just to understand this topic academically. It's about empathy, it's about advocacy, and it's all about to take into the action. So it's about moving from silence to solidarity. Now, let me tell you that what are the purpose or the objective of for taking this kind of the topic, just to explore the root causes such as poverty, the lack of education, the unemployment, and the societal pressure that push the individuals to into the prostitution. Also to assess the current laws, the policies, and the judicial decisions that is related to the prostitutions and their implications on the lives of the sex workers. Also, to highlight the voices and narratives of sex workers to bring their challenges, stigmas, and struggles in the society. Apart from this, to study the societal norms that prejudices after the mental health, the well-being, and the rights of individual that those who are involved in the prostitutions, and also to suggest the societal reforms in laws, policies, and the social attitudes that could help protect and integrate the sex workers into mainstream society with the dignities and with the full rights. Right now, let me just tell you that most of the people like don't know about that the international sex worker day is observed on June 2, that every year to focus on the rights of sex workers who are often marginalized and stigmatized in the society. So the day marks the history protest in 1975 at the Saint Nazaire church in Lyon in France, that during which hundreds of sex workers gather to express their frustration about their exploitative living conditions, about their criminalizing of their works. So those protesters occupied the church for like around 8 days, and they launched a campaign that asking for the legalization of the sex workers work in the country. Although the police arrested those protesters and removed those protesters from the church, and campaign could not bring any reform as envisioned. So that day, due the international media that attention to the issues faced by the sex workers, then since then the June 2nd was chosen as the day to focus on the rights of the sex worker. Right now, let's just start with the why do we study this topic, and to study these kinds of topic is important, for the today's era. So prostitution is something that often refer to the world oldest profession, and long has been subject of the debate and social stigma in the India. Right. So despite its prevalence, the societies, the voices of those involved in this trade their voices remain, marginalized and largely unheard. So there is also the prostitution in India is a multifaceted phenomenon that influenced by the that influenced by the cultural and the legal factors. Also, despite the legal prohibition, prostitution persists as a significant social issues in India. That is again driven by the poverty, driven by the lack of education, or the and human trafficking. Right? There's a definition that is given according to the Oxford Dictionary about the prostitution. That prostitution is something. This is defined as a process or the occupation of engaging in sexual activities with someone for payment. The voices of sex workers in India are seldom heard in mainstream discourse, and they are often perceived as victims or criminals rather than individuals with agencies, dreams, and aspirations. And same when we talk about the definition of prostitution in the Indian perspective. So basically, it occupies a complex and a contradictory space in the society. While it is not explicitly, it is not illegal. The laws surrounding it, such as the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, tends to criminalize and associated activities like brothel keeping, soliciting, which further marginalizes the sex workers. So there is basically the issue of prostitution in India, with the commercializations of the women's bodies in exchange for money being a deeply rooted practice. And there is a case of Gaurav Jain versus Union of India. In this case, the Justice J.K. Ramaswamy noted that prostitution has long existed in society. The victims of this exploitations are often impoverished, uneducated, and unaware individuals that targeted for the sexual slavery by the wealthier segments of society, also who exploit their suffering for profit. Right now, there is a small data that is related to the annual investment in the sex trade. So the annual investment in the sex trade in India that amounts to staggering of 40,000 crores. That also alarmingly 30% of those involved in the prostitutions are children, and who are faced to earn around like rupees 11,000 for their exploiters. So the country is estimating to have a population of 3 million sex workers, with Mumbai alone and accounting for approximately 1 lakh, that making it the largest hub for the sex industries in Asia. And out of which the child prostitutes, like 80% or the roughly around like 2,40,000 to 4 lakh are concentrated in major cities like Bangalore. So there is a report that is, by the NHRC, that is National Human Rights Commission, that says on the the report on the missing children, that says around 200 females of various ages enters the prostitution daily, with 20% of them being under the age of 15. So this is the report by the NHRC on the missing children. So this raises a critical question: should the prostitution be legalized, or would legalization improve or worsen the situation? Right. So also there is one small data of 2018 that also indicates that there are total 5,788 victims of trafficking were reported across various states and union territories in India. And out of this, these 206.
I'm really sorry, ma'am. Ma'am, can you just instruct me when to change the slides and to which slide do I
Yeah,
have to change?
definitely. Right now I'm on the first slide.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so where we were? Yeah. There is a data of 2018 that indicates that total 5,788 victims of trafficking were reported across the various states and union territories. And out of this, the 2,669 were males and 3,719 were the females victim. And according to the National Crime Records Bureau, that is NCRB, half of the victims, that is 2,834, were minors or under the age of 18, while 2,954 victims were adult. So this is the small data from the 2018 of the NCRB. And this chart, basically this illustrates the different purposes of the trafficking as reported by the NCRB in 2018. Akshay, can you please change the slide to the historical background of prostitution?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. Now, let's just understand like the historical background of the prostitution, right? So the reason behind the prostitution, the major reason behind the prostitution. So as we know that the history of the prostitution of India is not new in the country. It has been like prevailing in the society for ages. So the history, it has been, starting from the Devadasi period to the new age brothels, the prostitution in India has always played a vital role. When we talk about like Indian mythology, there are like numerous references to high class prostitutions as divine demigods going about the wars. So they are referred to as Menka, Rambha, Urvashi, and Tilotma. So they were the like famous workers at that point of time. They're depicted as immaculate and exemplifications and magnificent excellence and female charms. So they are exceptionally fulfilled in music and movement. And Apsara, whose name is Menika, brought about the defeat of the considerable sage of Vishwamartha and turned into the mother of Shakuntala. So this eternal champion of best dramatizations of the world, the Abhigyan Shakuntala, that is the drama that is written by the immense artist that is Kalidas of India. So during the British period, the brothels were established for the troops. The British Raj also enacted the Cantonment Act of 1864 for the regulations of prostitution in India, and which also regarded as one of the first legislation that concerning the prostitution in India. So this is the the historical background of the prostitution when we talk about like in Hinduism. But when we talk about the prostitution in the Muslim era, the prostitution in the Muslim era, the prostitution was widespread, although it was not considered as a source of government revenue. Let's get back to the Akbar Resign. A designated area of prostitutes that called the Shaitanpura was established with the royal support. The prostitution flourished and young boys were sent to the Shantipura to learn the art of pleasurable sex and the etiquettes of high society. Also, this thing we have also seen in the movie named Gangubai Kathiawadi. Right? And the situation did not change significantly with the arrival of the British. Prostitution also continued to thrive, especially with the support of Nawabs, the Rajas, and the Zamindars or the others. So when the Europeans settled in India, the sex trade shifted towards the port areas that also catering to the new customers and also leading to the rise in the number of prostitutes in the coastal regions. So brothels became more prevalent in these areas. And to satisfy the sexual needs of the British soldiers, there is like a temporary military quarters were established at that point of time. And those quarters known as the Lal Bazaars or the red light areas, right? And additionally, the prostitutions were often invited to perform the mujras and the entertain the guests during the festive occasions. Akshay, can you please change the slide to the definitions of prostitution?
Done, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, now let's just understand that as we know, the prostitution is defined differently, that they have different perspective in the different fields. Like when we talk about in the legal terms, the prostitution refers to the exchange of sexual services for money. with varying laws across regions that also criminalizing, that decriminalizing or regulating it. When we understand the term of prostitution in the sociological perspective, it means it is seen as a social phenomenon, and that social phenomenon is influenced by the economic, that influenced by the cultural and the gender dynamics. So often tied to issues like poverty and gender inequality. And the same definition, when we understand in the psychology manner, it is studies about the motivations, it studies about the mental health of the sex workers and the emotional impact on the individuals, with some research linking it to trauma, while others focus on empowerment and choice. And economically, the prostitution is a part of the informal economy that analyzed through the supply demand principles and labor market conditions, with some advocating for its formalization to ensure the workers' protection. Right? The definition in the public health. So basically, this put more focus on the health services. That includes particularly include the spread of sexually transmitted infections. Right. In the feminist theory, next slide, Akshay. In the feminist theories, this prostitution defines as a radical feminist that see the prostitutions are exploitative and reinforcing the patriarchy. Right. So historically, prostitution definitions has shifted from religious and the ritualistic roles in the ancient cultures to stigmatizations during the colonial or the Victorian eras. And which is this definition is the most important definition, the religious interpretation of the prostitution, which means this view as immoral, though some historical practices such as Devadasi system in Hinduism that involves the religious ritual prostitutions, and each of these perspectives provides a unique lens on the complexities of the prostitution, as it also intersects these definitions intersects with the laws, with the societies, with the economics and the prostitution and the morality. Right? So these are the different definitions that we understand in across the various fields, right? That also reflecting the complexity of its nature. Next, the definition of the prostitution. Definition the definition of prostitution in the different countries. So the prostitution in India, right? So basically, as we know, the prostitution in India is legal, but opening, but to carry out these such activities that is related to the prostitution, just like opening a brothel or pimping. So these activities are prohibited under the Act of Immoral Trafficking Prevention Act. So according to Section 2F of the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, that defines the prostitutions as the sexual exploitations or the misuse of any any person for any business purpose. Right? When we talk about the condition of the prostitution in Australia, the prostitution is limitedly legal, which means the legality of the prostitution in Australia differs significantly across states and territories, and each has its own set of laws. But in New South Wales, prostitution is largely decriminalized, though pimping remain illegal. And when we talk about like in Queensland, Tasmania, or the Victoria, the sex work is legal and subject to the regulations. So in contrast, the independent sex work is permitted but unregulated in the Western Australia. Right? And in the Northern Territory, the South Australia, where the brothels and the pimpings are the prohibited. The definition also in the United States, the prostitution is basically illegal in United States. It's totally illegal in United States, but there are 10 countries in the Nevada. In these countries, the brothels are allowed, where prostitution is illegal. And because in this, both the brothels and the sex workers are required to pay the federal income taxes. That also remains the prostitution illegal in other countries, in other Nevada countries, like including Clark, Douglas, Lincoln, Pershing, and DeVos, and also Las Vegas is in Clark County, and the Reno is in the Washoe County. Right? Okay. Now next is Thailand. So when we talk about like Thailand, the prostitution is illegal in Thailand, although the laws are vague, that also frequently unenforced. And along with this, the red light districts, massage parlors, go-go bars, and sex-oriented karaoke bars are widespread. So many Thai citizens, that particularly rural, unskilled women facing financial pressures, and sex work serves as a major economic opportunity. Uh, Unlike just Canada, the prostitution is limited, legal, right? In Bangladesh, the prostitution is legal. All the prostitution is legally permitted in Bangladesh, but the country's constitution mandates the state. So basically, there is a provision that in the Bangladesh that this is the responsibility of the state to strive to prevent the gambling and the prostitution. Right. And in this, the several legal provisions also outlaw the activities such as child protections, forced prostitutions, solicitations, and the operations of the unlicensed brothels. Right. And same as in Belgium, the prostitution is illegal, but related activities such as organizing prostitutions and other forms of pimpings are illegal. And also enforcement varies, and in some areas the brothels are unofficially tolerated. Right. Now, these are the Akshay, can you please move to the red light district in India? Move to the next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, now these are the famous red light district areas that is in the different states. So the one of the Asia's largest red light district area is in the Kolkata, known as on the name of Sonagachi. Where around like 10,000 to 16,000 female sex workers. And according to a 2019 study, the Indian Journal of Public Health reported that West Bengal had the highest number of female sex workers in India. And those contributing nearly like 25% of the country, total estimated 1.82 million. So this suggests that around 4,55,000 female sex workers were in West Bengal at that time. Then Kamathipura in the Mumbai is the second largest red light district in India with approximately 5,000 sex workers. Then in Vidyapeeth, Pune, this is the India's third largest red light district with a home to around 5,000 sex workers and 700 brothels. Then in Chaturbhuj, that is in the Muzaffarpur, a red light district in Bihar with around like 3,500 sex workers are there. Then in Uttar Pradesh, the brothel is named as the Shivdaspur, a town in Varanasi district with a red light district housing approximately 2,000 sex workers. In Delhi, GB Road is there, a red light district area in the Indian capital with many brothels and over 1,000 sex workers are there. Then Ganga Jamuna in the Nagpur, red light district with as many as 188 brothel and thousands of sex workers are there. Then in Reshampura, Gwalior, there is a district in the Madhya Pradesh, right? A red light district in the Madhya Pradesh. Then in Kabadi Bazaar, that is in Meerut, a red light district with hundreds of sex workers operating from around 75 brothels. Then in Meerganj, that is in Prayagraj, there is a red light district with a significant number of sex workers and infamous for illicit trafficking and forced prostitution. So these are the famous red light districts in India. Right? Now, let's just understand the prostitution in the violence and the violence in the prostitution and the exploitation in prostitution. Right? So, what are the major differences between these two? Akshay, next slide. Prostitution, violence, and exploitation. Okay, so when we understood the violence in prostitution, so violence basically is an omnipresent feature of the prostitution, that both on a physical and psychological level. Prostituted individuals, that primarily women and children, are disproportionately vulnerable to the abuse. And according to various studies, the sex workers face higher rates of rape, physical assault, and murder compared to women in other professions. Right? So how these violence, and what are the types of violence that is, we will cover in the prostitution. The first one is the physical violence. The second one is psychological violence, and the third one is the institutional violence. So what is exactly the physical violence? So sex workers are often subjected to physical abuse. So in this, basically, the sex workers are abused by the clients, by the pimps, or the traffickers. So in this, this abuse can range from beating to the sexual violence that no one can imagine, right? So women in the prostitution frequently report being raped by their clients or subjected to other forms of sexual brutality. So in this, the threat of violence is an everyday reality in which forcing many to comply with, degrading and dangerous demands to avoid the punishment. Right. When we talk about psychological violence, so psychological violence is something that beyond from the physical harm. Psychological abuse is rampant, and in this, the individuals often experience degradation, objectification, and humiliation. That also being treated as a commodities or sometimes as an object for the pleasures. That also can lead to profound emotional and mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, then post traumatic stress. Furthermore, the stigma also surrounding the prostitutions contributes to the feeling of shame and isolation also, and also to further compounding the psychological tolls on the individuals in this state. Right. And the next is the institutional violence. Institutional violence is something where the sex workers represents the another layer of violence. So another layer of violence, which means that the law enforcement agencies, that medical personnel, and even the legal systems may either ignore or actively harm individuals engaged in the prostitution in countries. In the countries where the prostitution is illegal, then the sex workers face the constant police harassment and abuse with little to no access to justice. And this institutional failure is the major cause for addressing the poverty, major cause for the gender inequality or the lack of education force that may into the prostitution, and which also perpetuates that their exploitations. Right. Now, next is the exploitation, how the sex workers exploit, in the different the sex trafficking or the how their health is affected, and किस तरीके से like economic exploitation उनके साथ होता है. So the exploitation in prostitution is something that rooted in the power imbalances between the buyer, and that is typically male, and the seller, that is the female, right? So this relationship is frequently one of the dominance and the subjugation that reflecting the patriarchally structures in the society. So these the exploitations in prostitutions can be analyzed from the multiple perspective. First is the economic exploitation. The second one is sex trafficking, then the health exploitation, and the gender exploitation. So when we talk about economic exploitation, in this, the many individuals enter prostitution due to financial desperation, right? So women's from the women's, those who are from the low income backgrounds, the women's those who are migrants, and the the women's who are from the marginalized communities are disproportionately represented in the sex trade. And in this situation, the prostitutions is rarely a true choice, but rather a survival mechanisms in the face of extreme poverty. So this economic exploitation is becomes more evident as these individuals often earn far less than what their services are worth, right? So with a significant portion of their earnings going to the pimps or the different traffickers, right? Like there are n numbers of traffickers, when if we talk about one sex workers, there are n numbers of pimps and there are n numbers of traffickers are involved, right? So the next one is the sex trafficking, which means that one of the most the form of exploitation that is associated with the prostitution is human trafficking, that also prey on vulnerable individuals, that particularly the women and children, right? though they are coercing or deceiving them into the sex trade. So trafficking victims are something that often experience the extreme form of abuse, and they are stripped of their autonomy, and they are denied their basic rights. So their global natures of trafficking makes it difficult for the victims to escape, and they moved across the borders and isolated from the support systems, also threatened with the violence if they attempt to leave, right? So like these are the exploitations with the prostitution. When we talk about like health exploitation is something that including the HIV, that including the sexually transmitted infections is there, right? And the some governments, even though some governments and the organizations have provided the health services to the sex workers, but they remain the excluded from the healthcare system due to the stigmatizations of their profession, right? So this is the only reason their exploitation is vulnerable, and untreated health issues can have the long lasting and sometimes the fatal consequences were there, right? The last one is the gender exploitation, and which is also considered as the like most important thing when we talk about prostitution. So this disproportionately affects the women's and girls, that reflecting the broader issue of gender equality in society. The men who make up most clients exercise economic and social power to purchase the sexual services, often without regards for the harm caused to the women involved. So this also reinforcing, patriarchally dynamic, right? Where the women's bodies are commodified and their autonomy is undermined. So the intersections of the prostitutions and the gender exploitation is especially evident in how the women's in the prostitutions are viewed and treated by the society, right? Now next slide we have, that is like there are different legal aspects of the for the protections of the prostitution in India is there. Just that we have the first act, that is Immoral Traffic Prevention Act. Then we have some special provisions in the Indian Penal Code and the prostitution. Then we have also provisions in the Constitution of India. Then the different states have their own act that is related to the trafficking. In Madras, we have like Madras Suppressions of Immoral Traffic Act of 1930. In Bihar, the Bihar Suppression of Immoral Traffic Act 1948. And MP Suppression of Immoral Traffic Act of 1953. Right. So these are the like different act that is is there for the protections of the prostitution in India. So when we talk about like Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, so this act basically defines the different provisions that is related to the sex workers. First is define the definition of sex workers. It also defines the definition of clients that can the clients that can be charged with the consorting with prostitutes, and especially if they engage in the sex acts within the 200 yards of the public place or the notified area. So basically there is a penalty of 3 months of the imprisonment, and if the sex worker is under the 18, so the clients may face even to 7 years of imprisonment. And this act also include the definitions of pimps, the brothel, and also for procuring or trafficking. And also this the act also defines the definition of rescued women. Like basically in this law, the major focus is on the public places, which means that includes the public places includes the religious rights or the educational institutions or the hostel and hospitals, so these areas basically called as a notified area, right? So these are the definitions that is covered and the most important definition that is covered in this Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, right? Now the next, it's a Indian Penal Code. So there are different provisions like under Section 354 that also imposes a penalty of up to 2 years of imprisonment or the fine for assault or use of criminal force on a woman to outrage her modesty. Then there is a section of under Section 366 that criminalizes the kidnapping or the abduction of a woman or for the illicit intercourse. Right? Then there is a provision of the section 372 that also prohibits the selling, hiring, and possession of any girl that is under the 18 years of for the immoral purpose, declaring it an offense. Then there is also section 375 that defines the sexual intercourse with a girl under the age of 16 years, even with her consent, is considered as a rape. And in this case, the punishable the imprisonment is of the 10 years. Right? Then we have section 497 that establishes the adultery as an offense, where a person engages in the sexual relations with a married woman and without the consent or the knowledge of her husband. So these kinds of offenses also punishable up to 5 years in prison and a fine or the both. Then we have section 498 that also exempt the women from any liability as an abettor, and also this section also penalizing the or detaining a married woman to engage in the illicit intercourse with a sentence of up to, and there's also punishment of up to the 2 years of imprisonment, right? Then when we talk about Constitution of India, Article 23 also guaranteed, right to the sex workers. So Article 23 Clause 1 of the Constitution of India, this prohibits the human trafficking. And in this context, the prostitution, it prohibits all kinds of sex trafficking that leads to the commercial sexual exploitation in India. Also, there is like Article 23 Clause 2 that says any person guilty of human trafficking shall be punishable by law. So basically, like there are different provisions in the under the Constitution of India that also protects the prostitute, that also providing the safety to the prostitution in India. Then there is a United Nation that we have, there is one convention for the suppression of the trafficking in persons and the exploitations of the prostitutions that was approved by the United General Assembly on the 2nd December. And that convention came into force on 25th July 1951. Right. So these are the, in this convention, different agreements were there, like international agreements for the suppressions of the white slave trafficking. Then the international conventions for the suppression of the white slave trafficking 1910. Then for the suppression of trafficking women and children in the year of 1921. So these are the different international convention that is made under the United Nations in the General Assembly. Right. Then there are like different acts in the Madras, Bihar, Hyderabad, Ajmer, Bombay, and so these are the different acts there for the protections of the prostitution in India. Now, the next we have the why these prostitution offenses, or why these offenses, human trafficking offenses, are causing rapidly day by day. So what are the causes of the prostitution in India? Then the first one is the poverty and unemployment that plays a major, the major causes for the prostitution in India, in which the that also the basically the this is the prostitution is the last resort to feed themselves or their families. Then the people they have they don't know whether, like, without education or the employable skills, these women have like limited options, right? Then indebted families, and they also may force the female members into the prostitutions to repay their loans or to escape the financial ruin. Also the broken families, the domestic violence, that also women fleeing abuse often end up in the vulnerable situations that is exploited by the traffickers. Then there is also causes of widowhood and the desertion, which is something that abandoned or the widowed women, that especially in the rural areas, are more vulnerable to the being pushed into the sex work. Then there is a cause of caste-based discrimination. In the caste-based discrimination is famous in Hinduism, right? Like for an example, like Devadasi and Banchanda, these are the historically forced women into the prostitution as a part of the ritual or the caste-based exploitation. Then the kidnapping or the child trafficking, as we जो हम लोगों ने reports पढ़ा था उसके अंदर भी the young girls are often abducted or under the false pretenses or the forced into these kinds of offenses. Then deceptions by the employment agents, and organized crimes are there, where the criminal syndicates operate across states and borders and also targeting the poor and vulnerable. Then to objectify the women, that is this is the cause, these are the like patriarchal values where women's bodies are objectified are and considered as the commodities for the male pleasure, right? Then next is the lack of female agency, right? So basically women do not have control over life and their choices of finances, that also lead to the exploitations. Then the causes of the early and the forced marriage, the girl fleeing forced marriages and sometimes land in the prostitution due to the lack of alternatives. Then the rural and urban migrations, those women who are migrating to the cities in the search of the work, but often they end up homeless or the unemployed, and they placed somehow into the this work. Then displacement due to the conflict or the natural disasters, vulnerable women and the children in refugees or the relief camps. So those students, those children and the women are targeted by the traffickers, and there is an inadequate also the social welfare schemes, right? That or that make it hard for the women to find the support. अगर वो बाहर निकलना चाहे भी, so they don't have any like kind of support, and they don't have like any provisions, so that from there she can protect herself, right? So these are the like different causes we have for causing the prostitution in India, and these are the like major causes for the prostitution in India. Now the next we have the effect of prostitution in India. So basically we have like different like n numbers of effects are there in the prostitution in India. So when we talk about social effects, the stigma and sex, so these sex workers face deep social exclusions, and also they often deny the basic rights, the respects and the dignity in the society. And the children of these sex workers sometimes facing the bullying or the educational discriminations, that also reduce the opportunities for them, and the gender inequality reinforcement, right? So these are the effects, these are the like social effects. Then next we have the legal and human right effects. So these are the where the ambiguous legal status, where the prostitution itself is not illegal in India, but these are associated with the different activities like brothels, then keeping and soliciting, and criminalizing these activities and making the sex workers more vulnerable, right? Then there is a big role of the police harassment and the corruption. Then also they have limited access to the legal justice, their rights, their labor rights, and their welfare schemes to the widespread exploitation. Then the health effects, the high risk of, as I've earlier mentioned, that there is a high risk of there different infections, that STIs or the HIV and AIDS. Then also it causes the mental health issues, the depression and the violence, and the different traumas are there. Then the poor reproductive health care and the unsafe abortions of the females. Then the economic effects consist like so basically these are the effects that is exploited by the middleman, right? So women are exploited by the middleman, where the brothel, the owners and the pimps and traffickers often take large part of income, right? Then also it gives like a major effect on the children's. The children's of the sex workers are at high risk of being trafficked into the same trade, and there is an education disruption. Then they also lose their identity, right? And the also basically there are like lots of societal implications that जो हमें अपने पार्ट पे करनी चाहिए, that is to raise the debate around the morality or the legality and the women agencies, right? So these are the different effects of the prostitution in India. Now the how could we curb these problems and these offenses, like these types of crimes in India? So like different suggestions are there. First, we can also increase the sex education, and which is very important and considered like essential. This is essential, something essential, very to to educate the both men and women about the risk of venereal diseases or the sexually transmitted infections, that also including their causes and the harmful effect they can have on the marital and family relationships, right? Additionally, schools and colleges should offer the comprehensive sex education to the young people. Then teaching the importance of self-control from an early age is crucial, right? So this started from the at home, then from the school, and then from the colleges, right? Then there is like to increase the employment opportunities for the women. Sometimes the women's के पास अभी अब जैसे हम लोगों ने लास्ट स्लाइड में पढ़ा that the lack of uh, opportunities, lack of employment opportunities are there, right? So this so how could we किस तरीके से हम उसको कम कर सकते हैं? So by increasing the employment opportunities for the women, and those women who don't have any employment opportunity, and they are mostly driven into the prostitutions due to the severe poverty, and also therefore providing them with the education, the training, and the skill development, which is very important for them, right? And also by equipping those women with the necessary skills and the knowledge, and their employability in the job markets can be significantly increased, right? So basically this economic empowerment is considered to be a key factor for preventing the impoverished women's from being forced into the exploitative profession, right? Also to abolish the certain social customs and norms, like widow remarriage should be actively encouraged. Although Widow Remarriage Act legally permits widow to remarry, societal restrictions against such marriage persist. The dowry system, which prevents the many girls from marrying, must be strongly discouraged. And it is crucial to shift these societal attitudes towards the widow remarriage, the dowry system, the Devadasi tradition to bring about the meaningful change, right? So these are the things. अगर हम इसको इन सारे social customs को and norms को अगर हम लोग abolish करते जाएंगे, तो might be like there will be slight changes, right? Then also the double standard of the morality must be discouraged. The double morality standard of morality stands for the that where the that regarding the sexual behavior that should be actively discouraged. So there is a note that is given by the Srimati Ranganaiki. So according to her, it is essentially impossible to maintain the double standard in sexual morality. So as female cannot exist without males as well. So the societal expectations that women must remain chaste, while men are permitted to be unrestrained, and has led to a culture to tolerated vice, right? So this imbalance sometimes created like moral expectations that increase the moral expectations, and these expectations must be addressed to promote the equality and the fairness, right? Also to increase the publicity, to increase the propaganda, to make the also to aware about the relevant laws to the prostitutions, and also the individual should be encouraged to report any illegal or the immoral activities in their surroundings. This also that promotes the films that promote the sexual contents or the pornographic literature should be discouraged, right? So this can help out, right? Then also to establish the venereal diseases clinics, dedicated venereal diseases clinics should be established to the for the treatment of the for the sex workers, that is the prostitutes that are affected by the sexually transmitted diseases. And also these clinic must offer the comprehensive diagnostic and treatment facilities that particularly targeting high risk groups such as prostitutes or the lorry drivers. Then also the laws, that existing laws, to make those laws strict, and the different amendments should be there, right? So the government must also ensure that stringent laws to ensure that no dares to engage in such activities. Also, the severe punishment should be imposed, and those individuals who continue to participate despite repeated warnings should be prosecuted from the law, right? So these are the different suggestions where from where we can improve, this thing in our country. Then these are the different like list of the NGOs that are providing the protection to the, or that are these NGOs are taking care the prostitution in our country, just like Society for Help Entire Lower and Rural People. So this NGO is in the Andhra Pradesh, and they rescue also rehabilitates the human trafficking victims with a particular focus on children. Then there is a Rescue Foundation. So this is one of the frontline organization in Mumbai, and this basically, and this NGOs is founded in 2000. So it's to save over the 5,006 trafficking victims in various parts of the country. Then the Vihan, that is a Waste Management Society. They worked at the grassroots levels to fight the human trafficking and the other forms of exploitations, right? And they also work with the social workers, the counselors, or the lawyers, or the researchers to fight the events of human trafficking with a victim-centric and end-to-end approach. Then Guriya Swayam Sevi Sansthan. So this Sansthan is a Varanasi-based NGO that fights the child protection, second generation prostitutions, and also the trafficking of women and the forced labor, right? Then the Prajwala is a Hyderabad-based NGO that devoted the eradicating forced prostitution and sex trafficking. So this NGO is founded in 1996 by the Sunitha Krishna and brother Jose Vetikattil, right? Then the Vipla Foundation is there. The Vipla Foundation, they worked after the COVID-19 pandemic, and the women in sex work and the victims of trafficking are at the greater risk of re-trafficking. So the rehabilitated survivors of trafficking have lost their jobs. So these foundations worked on that basis, right? So yeah, now I would like to share a real life story of a woman that is she's from the Sonagachi, the one of the Asia's biggest red light area. So this is a story of a Munni. She's basically a commercial sex worker from the Sonagachi, and the Sonagachi is the largest red light district in the Kolkata, and that also translates as a golden tree and has several hundred multi-storage brothels built in the winding lanes, and is home to the some 10,000 extra sex workers. So the United Nations officers of the drugs asked the question to the Munni that can you please tell us about how you came to be here at such young age? So she shares her story that all I remember is that these statements are given by the Munni, right? That I am from Bangladesh and I came here when I was 10 years old. So I tell people that I am a Hindu and that my name is Munni and I'm 16 now. So, but I tell people I'm 20 years, but now she tell her age about like she's 20 years of old. So I've been there for 5 years and this is my home and I have no family. And the family and the lady pimp, उसको वो उनको माँ बोलती है. So it's my family. So she look after me, feeds me, and even gives me money to buy the sarees for the Durga Puja. Right. Then the Unidog asked, were you treated well in the first brothel? So Munni asked that brothel was owned by a fat woman and we called her auntie in Bengali. So first she bathed and fed me, and I was given a bed to sleep and clean clothes. Then I felt she felt happy to be among kind people. Then on the third day, she put makeup on my face and made me stand along with the 20 other girls for the men to pick their choice. And at first, she did not understand that what was happening and thought she would be selected to go to a new home. So when she understood that what was happening, so she tried to escape, but she caught. So, and she locked in a dark room for a week and beaten with the thick wooden stick, and also they made sure not to hit on my face, on her chest and on thigh, and because the customers would not choosing it, right? So one night, auntie was drunk and sleeping, and her brother was in another brothel, and I ran away as fast as I could. So I saw a policeman on the road and told him my story. So he promised to help me, but he and his three friends raped me, and I turned to Sonagachi and found a new auntie. So basically, the like ऐसी बहुत सारी ऐसी अनहर्ड स्टोरीज हैं, राइट, जो कि किसी को भी नहीं पता, बट एक्चुअली व्हाट दे आर फेसिंग, हम लोग उस चीज का अंदाजा भी नहीं लगा सकते, राइट. सो देयर आर लाइक एन नंबर ऑफ स्टोरीज आर देयर, जो कि रियल लाइफ स्टोरीज हैं, राइट. So with this, I would like to end my presentation. So thank you so much. Let's be the voice for those still unheard. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for that enlightening presentation. You are bringing these unheard voices into the light from a holistic perspective and have given us much to ponder. Now, before we wrap up tonight's session, we will address a few questions that were submitted by our audience beforehand. These questions have been carefully selected to further enrich our discussion. So, ma'am, in this presentation, since you have talked about the employment opportunities that should be given to the marginalized victims of this culture, and on those lines itself, the first question goes like, how to train the vulnerable and marginalized sections to enrich with needed skills of contemporary times to excel in employment sector?
Akshay, can you please write this question on the chat box? Like it
Sure,
will
ma'am.
be easy.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
I have sent the question, ma'am.
Okay. So, how to train the okay, yeah, here's the question. So, how to train the marginalized workers for the employment opportunities of current times? So, basically, to train these, marginalized workers for the current employment, it is very important to focus on on their practical skill development, and to also to focus on their education, like this involves the partnering with the different organizations, right, and to train them and to providing them the specific needs, that also by creating their supportive environments. Right. So, also, uh, we can involve them as in the training, or providing them practical experience. Then soft skill development is important for them. Then community involvement, उनको कोलैबोरेट करना कम्युनिटी बेस्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के साथ, ताकि वो लोग एक स्पेसिफिक नीड्स को और एक ट्रस्ट को बिल्ड कर सकें, राइट. वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग्स उनको प्रोवाइड करना, राइट. सो दीज आर द थिंग्स दैट वी कैन डू फॉर देम.
Thank you, ma'am. For the next question, ma'am, since I myself am a law student and I'm assuming that most of our viewers fall in the same category, the question goes, what role can students or young professionals play in advocating for the rights and dignity of sex workers from marginalized communities?
Okay, so being a student, as I've already mentioned in my PPT, that being a student, you can also, create the education by organizing the different events, by organizing the different camps, right, to educate them about the sex education, that किस तरीके से ये इतना इम्पोर्टेंट है चीजों को अंडरस्टैंड करना, किस तरीके से ये इम्पोर्टेंट है कि अपने एक एज पर एक फीलिंग्स को कंट्रोल करना, राइट, ऑल्सो टू एनलाइटन देम अबाउट द लाइक किस तरीके से जो हमारा कल्चर है, कल्चर इज नॉट समथिंग कि आपको वो प्रोस्टिट्यूशन की तरफ फोर्स करे, राइट, सो कल्चर इज समथिंग कि whatever right now कि आज जो हमारे पास है उसको हम लोग किस तरीके से आगे प्रमोट कर सकते हैं, राइट, सो यू कैन as a law student, right, you can create the awareness just like this.
Thank you, ma'am, for providing such insightful perspective on this complex issues. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions tonight. And with that, we conclude yet another illuminating session brought to you by Just Corpus. A big thank you to our guest speaker, Ms. Mohini Taneja, ma'am, for sharing her expertise with us tonight. And of course, a heartfelt thank you to our viewers for tuning in. I am Aksharaditya, signing off for tonight. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.